So today on the podcast is my ex-husband, Cody, that's like still like such a weird word to say because I mean, we were obviously married for 10 years, but anyway, I'm really excited for Cody to be on the podcast today. He is my first guest interview. And I just felt like it was just like a very natural thing for him to be my first interview. I think a lot of people are interested in our dynamic. Obviously, we're no longer married, but we still have like a really great relationship where we co-parent really well. He comes over to my house. We chat on the phone through Marco Polo, like all of that good stuff. So people don't know a lot about you. So I just wanted to bring you on the podcast, talk about your life, just kind of let people get to know you. So first, before we get into the interview, there is a disclaimer. So this is not going to be a episode or an interview on our relationship or why we got divorced, the problems that we had in our marriage. That's not what this podcast episode is going to be about. But I still wanted to bring him on, and we might talk a little bit about like our relationship and a little bit about co-parenting and our kids and things like that. But not going to get into the nitty gritty about our relationship. So, okay. So, okay. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. So the first question I want to ask you, Cody, is, well, actually, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. So sorry, guys, like all over the place. But before we get into the interview, I want you to do an intro on you. Like, do an introduction. Like, who is Cody? Where did you grow up? Like, what is your, I don't know. Just like do an introduction. Like, who are you?
All right. Well, hi everybody. I am famous for being Caitlin's ex-husband and Harper and Daphne's dad. Um,
And
but
Tulo. Don't forget about Tulo.
my firstborn, Tumo. Yeah, I think my claim to fame is my relationship to you. So
Okay, but how old are you?
I'm 35 years old. I live in a suburb of Salt Lake City. Um, yeah,
Okay.
kind of generic, but
No, that's good. We're going to get into it. So that's perfectly fine. Okay, well, perfect. So the first question that I want to ask you is, what was your experience becoming a first time dad?
hmm. So when we had Harper, we were living with your mom, and I was in college. I wasn't working, so I was basically a stay-at-home dad, and you worked while I tried to navigate college and a newborn.
Yeah, I did have maternity leave. So my company graciously gave me 4.5 months paid maternity leave at 100%. My company I work for also gives you a paid sabbatical. So every 5 years that you work there, you get a month paid off. So at the time, I had worked there for, I think it was like 5 or 6 years. So I was able to tag my sabbatical onto my maternity leave. And so I was at home for like 5.5 months after the birth of our daughter, which if you live in the US, you know that is literally basically unheard of. Like we have no paid maternity leave in the United States. But I work for a company that does offer that, and I'm so grateful. So I was home for that time. But yeah, when I went back to work, and this was pre-COVID, so I wasn't work from home. I worked at an office. I went into the office every single day. Um, I was only working like part time, so I think I was working 4 days a week, shorter hours. But yeah, you were kind of the primary care person when I went back to work.
I sure was,
You were, and I kind of like forgot about that honestly because it's been so long.
I didn't. Yeah, it's very difficult. Just I don't think there's anything that can really prepare you for being a parent. Um, we thought, oh well, we had Tulo, so that kind of will give us some experience and dealing with another life. but nothing could really prepare you for that. Um, especially in college, which was a struggle in and of itself. But
Yeah, well, it's funny that you bring up Tulo because when we got Tulo, so we got Tulo the year that we got married, and at the time I was very baby hungry, and we I was 22 when we got married. We live in Utah, and if you're familiar with Utah culture, you know that like what people usually do is they get married really young and then they just start like popping out babies immediately. So that's why I grew up. My mom and dad had 6 kids, and so I was baby hungry when we got married. You said let's get a dog first. We got Tulo, and we also got another dog, Moses. He's my mom's dog now, because we literally could not handle having 2 dogs, and that scared me from having kids. Like there was a time where I thought I'm not gonna have kids. Like I can't do like I couldn't even like care for a dog. Or it was too stressful. So because of that, we waited a little bit to have kids. And now I look back on that and I'm like, what was so hard about having a dog? Like that wasn't hard. I don't know what was wrong with me.
it was pretty hard, having to figure out, what we're gonna do with them while we're at work. Um, we thought that we should get 2 dogs so that they can keep each other company, but it was very difficult, and I think it scared me even more from having kids as well. So
Yeah. Well, and so what happened with Moses was we got to a point where we're like, we have to give one of these dogs up. Like we have to give one of these dogs away. And that was really emotional because it's like, how do you have to like choose between your 2 children, which one you're going to keep.
lots of
And
choice.
like we just didn't know. We didn't want to just like give it to a random person anyway. So we asked my mom. We took little Moses. He's a little shorty. We took him over to my mom's house, and we just like suckered her into taking him, and she still has him and she loves him. Like he's the best companion. We take Tulu over there. They play. So it all worked out in the end. But yeah, that was kind of like our introduction to like being a parent, for like a dog parent. And then okay, so going back to Harper. So I want to talk about one thing. So I have a very vivid memory when Harper was a baby. We were in the very early stages of newborn. This was our first child. I can only speak for myself, but like everything that I thought parenthood was going to be was what it was not the way that I thought it was. Harper was very colic. She would cry basically nonstop for like the first 3 months of her life. And I just thought that we were doing everything wrong. But I remember one night in particular, we sat down, we were like really struggling with Harper. She, was struggling to eat. She's crying. Like we couldn't get her to calm down or whatever. And I remember like looking you in the eye. And I have like a vivid memory. We were in our bedroom in my mom's basement because we were living with my mom. Um, and I looked at you and said, like, we're not having any more. Like it's one and done. Like I literally felt like it was so difficult, and I was not prepared for that. So I'm curious kind of what your thoughts were. Like um what did you think parenthood was going to be like before we had kids?
I mean, I really didn't have any idea. I know that you've talked about infertility with your followers, and we struggled with infertility. It was, a very heavy thing for our relationship and life. I don't think people that haven't struggled with infertility really understand the toll it takes on you as a person and your relationship as well. Um, but taking pregnancy tests every month, it's going to be. It's going to be negative, and it's very hard. And then when you have a kid, you find out you're pregnant, you're very excited. It's your first one, but as soon as they're born, um, it's challenging because you are no longer living for yourself. So that's really one thing that I vividly remember is my whole life now is going to this kid, and what am I going to do? Is this my life now, or am I still going to have my own life?
Yeah, I think that's so relatable because it's so easy to lose yourself. And I think most parents do. Like, especially in those early days, you do lose yourself in parenthood. You don't recognize yourself anymore. You don't have time to like go and do hobbies or go exercise or really care for yourself. And it's just really challenging to navigate. Cool. Okay. So I want to talk more about you and like get to know you a little bit more too, just kind of like the basics. So you said that you're 35 years old. You, yeah, 35 years old. So how many siblings do you have? And, yeah, what else? Yeah, how many siblings do you have? And then maybe talk about like your family dynamic.
So I was born in American Fork, Utah, which is a suburb about an hour south of Salt Lake City. But I grew up primarily in Colorado. I lived in Colorado Springs, Pueblo, Aurora. Um, I have a little brother, Josh. He's 2 years younger than me. And sorry,
It's
I was
okay.
gonna say, Caitlin really likes when I talk about the tragedy of my life,
No,
and
no, it's not that. The only reason I like can make jokes about it sometimes or like laugh about it is because of you, because you would do that, and at the beginning of our relationship it would make me like, I was like, what, like this is a horrible situation, like why? And it was just your sense of humor, and I feel like I've adopted your sense of humor over the years where it's a little sarcastic, but I'm not really like a funny person in general, but it's just like the subtle humor, and I got it from you.
but yeah. So I have a little brother. He lives in Florida. I have family spread out in Colorado, Utah. Um, um, the Northeast. Yeah,
And then what about your parents? You want to talk a little bit about that?
sure.
No pressure. I mean, no pressure, but you know.
Yeah. So my parents were divorced when I was very young. I grew up in a household with a lot of domestic violence, substance abuse, directed towards me, directed towards my mom. It was a very difficult childhood, moving, all the time, and being a new kid in school was very difficult. So my parents got divorced when I was very young, and we moved in with my mom's family in Utah. Um, and I mean, I'm kind of just rambling here.
No, you're not no, you're not rambling at all. So I think what's unique to you as well is that you're really close with your extended family. So you're really close with your aunt, and you have two aunts on your mom's side that you're really close with. So both of Cody's parents are deceased, have passed. Um,
I was getting
Okay. Well, I was gonna like say that like your aunt is like basically has kind of been like a mother figure to you, and your aunt is actually our kids' nana, like their grandma. But she's your aunt, and so I think that's one thing that's really unique to you, because I'm not as close with my aunts and uncles as you are with yours, and with your cousins. Like your cousins are like your like you have the same relationship with your cousins that I have with my siblings. Like it's almost like your cousins are your siblings, which I think is really cool.
sure. Yeah, I was very involved. I think because of the issues that I had in the household growing up. I developed more of a relationship with my extended family. I was around them a lot more. I actually lived with one of my aunts in Colorado when I was in high school. Um, and yeah, it was a very strange. I forget that, like a lot of people, their relationships are a little bit different, and my timeline is pretty messy. So
Yeah, well, and then like one other thing I wanted to talk about too is like you dropped out of high school as well to kind of help your mom. She was a single mom at the time and needed some help. And so can you talk like how old were you when you dropped out of high school? Do you remember?
so I was 16, and my mom was on disability. She struggled with chronic depression, so it made just everyday tasks very difficult for her. Um, she was out of work, but disability checks wouldn't cover all of her expenses. So I dropped out of high school and got a job so that I
I think that's really cool. And obviously it's very tragic and a lot of people are unfortunately like faced with that decision. But what I like about your story is that you dropped out of high school. When we met, you were 19 and you hadn't gotten your GED at that point, but you did end up getting your GED. You went to college and now you have a double major. You went to the University of Utah. And so you were able, and I think that's really unique. I don't think a lot of people, who have dropped out of high school, like can really, it's a challenge. Going to college is a challenge. In the United States, it's a challenge. It's very expensive. It's hard to get into a good school. And you did it. And I'm really proud of you for doing that. And um, sorry, I feel like I'm speaking for you, but like I like want to talk you up because that's not easy. One other thing that you did is, going back to college really quick. Before I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but you're the first person in your family to graduate from college.
Yeah. My dad worked construction. My mom cleaned houses. Yeah, I have a military family as well on my mom and dad's side, and nobody went to college. And it's funny that you bring up the GED. So I don't know if your followers know. I work at a local public defender firm in Salt Lake City. Um, when you see the shows and somebody's appointed an attorney because they can't afford one, I work at a firm that does that. And a lot of people have their law degree hung up in their office, and my GED is actually framed in a really nice frame and hung up in my office because I'm very proud of it. But yeah, I went to college, and a lot of my success and stuff is a direct result of you. When we met, I didn't really have a lot of direction in my life. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself that I could do these things, and you gave me that, and I really appreciate it. That you kind of helped me see what I could become. I'll always be thankful for that.
Oh, that's really nice. I mean, but I'm not going to take credit. Like you were the one that went to school. You were the one that like took the test. Like I haven't graduated college, so like I can't take that credit for you. Um, hey, I got my associate's degree, and then this isn't about me, but I'm a college dropout. No, I did get my associate's degree, but the reason why I didn't finish is just because I kept changing my major. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And this is a podcast episode for like another day. And I could talk forever about this, but yeah, I didn't. I'm a college dropout, so there you go. The other thing I wanted to talk about. So talk about when you moved to Wyoming.
Okay, our timeline's getting a little weird.
Well, it's not chronological exactly, but it's like
Okay.
it's my notes.
Yeah. So what was I, 20? Um, so to back up a little bit, my dad um, passed away when I was 16 years old. He was an alcoholic and he died from a brain aneurysm. And then when I was 18, my do you have to do like a disclaimer for this or?
I can do one at I can record it later. I can record it. Sorry. We'll cut that. Yep, we'll cut that. No, no, bud.
Still sitting on my lap right now.
Here, do you want to say something?
He's getting very anxious.
Okay. He's like, all right.
But so my dad died when I was 16 years old. He was an alcoholic my entire life. From a brain aneurysm, he had cirrhosis from chronic drinking, and then when I was 18, my mom passed away from suicide. So, I didn't really have like a lot of direction. We talked about how I met Caitlin a year after my mom passed, but I didn't really know what I was doing with my life. I was racking up a lot of debt. I was just struggling with the passing of my parents. So, I found myself, about $30,000 in debt when I was 20. I think your and I's relationship was really off and on.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, it was very off. So I had a friend that lived in Casper, Wyoming, so I moved up there to go work on the oil rigs to pay off my debt, and that was awful.
Yeah, you did it for like what? How long was it?
It was a year.
About a year. Yeah, and then you got laid off.
Yeah, it was
Because
the
this was
best
in
day of my life, getting laid off from the oil rigs.
well, because this was in 2009, so it was like right after like the market. Like I don't know if that's related or not. I'm not an economist.
Yep.
So I don't know if it's related, but I remember there were like layoffs and you were like praying that you got laid off so you'd get like the severance and could just move back to Utah because it was just, I mean, that's obviously like really hard work. It's like negative 30 degrees out there in the winter. I went and visited Cody on his birthday, and his birthday's in January, and I drove from Utah to Casper, Wyoming alone, and I got into like their area, like just right outside Casper or something, and then there was literally just like ice on my windshield. I had to pull over, and I didn't, for some reason, I didn't have like an ice scrape, and yeah, it just seemed like just not the best area to live. Just cold wise. Sorry, I'm not trying to offend anyone that lives in Wyoming. It's beautiful, but it's freezing.
I'll take the blame for this. It's not that beautiful.
Okay. Oh,
Um,
geez.
but yeah, I mean, I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. I knew I paid really good money, but I pretty much worked nonstop for a year. Um, and at that point, I had paid off all my debt. I had some money saved up. I knew that they were doing layoffs, and I was hoping I would get laid off because I would get severance, and then I could move back to Utah. Um, but yeah, when you came out to visit me, it's one of my favorite memories of you because I think I was trying to get back together with you, and I sent flowers to your work,
Yeah.
and you never responded to let me know if you got them or anything.
Well, I wanted to surprise you.
Yeah, and then you just showed up at my door.
Yeah. Well, I called you when I was at that gas station, and I'm like, I don't, and it was like before you had like a smartphone and Google Maps. Like I literally printed out MapQuest on like a piece of paper like this, and like I was trying to figure out where to go. There's this huge blizzard. There's ice like on my windshield. And so I ended up just calling you and being like, hey, I'm like 20 minutes out, but like I'm stuck basically. So you need to help me. Help. Cool. And then okay, one other thing I want to talk about is, well, wait, how much time is on there? 23 minutes. Okay. So one other thing, yeah, we'll cut that. So one other thing I wanted to talk about was being emo. So back in like the my this isn't no, I told you like it would be fun to talk about this because I was emo as well. Maybe I'll upload some photos. I don't know if I have any emo photos of you, but I think I have one, but I don't know. Anyway, okay. But okay, so you went viral on MySpace. It was like it was like viral before viral. This was like in the MySpace days back in like 2005 or 2006 or something. So you were like a really cool emo kid.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was a weird time. And yeah, it's kind of funny to think about. I don't really talk about it. When I have some friends that have pictures and they send them to me, and I try and convince them to delete those photos.
Okay, well I need to get a copy of those. So no, but we won't talk about this like too long, but I remember like I was kind of like a poser emo kid. Like I wanted to be like a cool emo kid, but I wasn't quite there. I definitely wasn't there, but I remember you were one of the cool emo kids, and like like everyone wanted to like hang out with you and that
I was a scene kid.
scene.
Scene.
Is that what is emo like a derogatory statement?
I wasn't a weak emo. I was a scene kid, which are cooler.
Oh, scene. Okay, well that's why I was never like in the. That's why I was never in the scene because obviously like I don't know my jargon. I just.
No, it's yeah, it's just everyone that I hung out with wore the tightest pants ever, a million piercings, long black hair,
Yeah.
all the same bands. Yeah.
Yeah. How many piercings did you have? Where Yeah, and your lips, both your lips, right? Your snake bites. That's what
Mm-hmm.
they called it. That's a throwback.
I didn't know that we
A
were going to
snake.
go into this on this
Well, we're
podcast.
just going. Like I have some notes. We just go where it flows.
Yeah. I actually have a funny story about that. So, when I was about 18, I was dating this girl, and she came over to my house, and she was grabbing me a shirt out of my closet, and she opened my closet doors, and she just started laughing because all my clothes were black.
I feel like that's like not a bad thing these days.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
it's very chic. Wearing all black is very chic.
yeah, they were tacky band shirts.
Mm.
You know,
Oh, geez.
um,
Awesome. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and move on from that. So just a couple more things I wanted to talk a little bit about. So what about your sobriety? So I know that you're sober and you have been posting that on social media recently. How did you decide to get sober?
um,
I know it's a loaded question. I know it's not like one thing. You don't have to get into like, just do what you're
yeah,
comfortable with.
um, yeah. There's a lot to that, and I think it can be just take a. I don't want to take this whole episode with that, but yeah, I've been sober for almost 5 months now. Um, I have struggled with issues with drinking and drugs since I was about 15 years old, which progressively got worse. After losing my parents, I guess I never really learned healthy coping mechanisms. But it kind of came to a head really after our divorce. I think when I first started, I was like, hey, I'm going to get sober. It's going to be perfect. I'm going to get my family back together. And I think, as I continued with my sobriety, I started seeing these other benefits outside of that. I became a much better father, more patient, more empathetic, which is something I've never been as an empathetic person. And my life is just profoundly better without alcohol in it. Yeah, and now the benefits are just great. My relationship with my kids is the most important thing in the world to me, and I have a fantastic relationship with them.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and I think that, I mean, you're a great dad, first of all, and you always
Sure.
and always have been, always have been a great dad. The girls absolutely adore you. I think with like substance abuse, I think it's a bigger problem in our society than what people lead on, because it's obviously there's like a lot of shame with it. There's a lot of shame with substance abuse, alcoholism. Alcohol is very romanticized, I would say. And like, I love a glass of wine. Like, I love cocktail, like going out and doing that. But I think that it's very easy for it to get out of hand. It's like, it almost seems like one day it's like not a problem. And then like the next day it is, like it's one of those things that kind of sneaks up on you. So I think it's really awesome that you have been so transparent and posting about your sobriety. And I know that people, like so many people, are behind you, rooting for you, support you. It takes a lot of courage to admit that there's a problem. So I think that's great. Okay, I think we're coming up like pretty close on time, but I also wanted to talk a little bit about co-parenting with you. So well, first of all, I got to ask, is so I've been struggling with sleep with Daphne for a long time. So we have made progress like in the last week. I share about this on social media all the time. But like, have you had any sleep issues with her, or is it just something that happens in my house?
No, I think when they come to my house, it's a little difficult at first, but yeah, Daphne sleeps in her bed
Just all night.
all night,
She
all
just,
night.
oh gosh, just me.
Yes,
She knows I'm a sucker.
yeah.
She knows I'm a sucker. And then co-parenting, like, why do you think, I know this is like a question a lot of my followers get. It's funny because like I've been posting on social media for over 3 years, so way before our divorce, and I never wanted my account to become a divorce page. I didn't want my divorce to define me. But a lot of people need support, and so it's kind of naturally happened. I get a lot of questions, I would say, about co-parenting and how do you navigate co-parenting. We recently went on a trip together with my family. Cody came. We went to Disneyland. We do things like that. We try to be in each other's life, even though we're not together anymore. So I guess my question is like, why do you think we're able to co-parent so well? And like, what advice would you have for people who maybe are just in the thick of co-parenting and they're maybe struggling, having a good co-parenting relationship? Just what do you have any advice for people who are going through that?
So I kind of want to use an example. So when we first had kids, we struggled with a lot of things, with parenthood, and nobody really talked about it. You would see people posting like these great things about how wonderful of a parent they are, and they're just thinking that's such bullshit. Like things
Or
aren't.
thinking that you're not measuring up. That's how I felt. I felt like something's wrong with me. I
Uh,
didn't think it was bullshit. I was like, oh, my life is a mess. There's like everyone else has it figured out.
yeah, no, I thought it was just bullshit
You always
because
knew.
yeah, because I'm like,
Because it is.
I think we're fine parents, maybe not exceptional parents at the time, but so with co-parenting, it's very difficult because there's a variety of reasons why people get divorced. Relationships are different, so I think that our relationship is a little unique because it wasn't, a super messy divorce. Despite all of the issues we've ever had in our relationship, we've always loved each other. We've always cared about each other. We've always wanted each other to be successful. And we've always wanted to do things that are in the best interest of the kids. So I think that's what kind of drives us at this point. So, yeah, it's very difficult because it takes two, and people don't always have that.
For sure. You said that like just so beautifully. Like I don't feel like I really have anything to add because you just hit the nail on the head there, but it definitely takes two. And yeah, I think that like we just want what's best for our kids. And we also just didn't have a messy divorce. Someone was asking me actually last night about like just our, if we hired an attorney and like what that all looked like. We won't get into that now, but like we had, you hear about these horror stories about people being in litigation for years, right? And like that was just not the way that we approached it. And so I think that's one thing that kind of helped us as well, is that we weren't fighting. Um, cool. Well, that, I think kind of sums up Cody here. So
Yeah, I
go
know.
and follow Cody.
Right.
Well, do you want to add anything else? Did I miss anything? That's all the notes that I had, but like, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about or?
I'm not really a person who, this is the most public, I've ever talked about myself. It's kind of a little uncomfortable just because I generally don't talk about stuff like this. I don't want people's, sympathy or to feel bad. So it's a little different talking about myself.
Yeah.
Maybe, again one day about something else, but there's nothing I can really think of.
Okay. Well, you can go and follow. Do you want me to plug you? He's a
I have like 15 followers, but sure.
You can go and follow Cody. His handle on Instagram is Cody4L.
No.
No. What?
At Cody James 4L.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. At Cody James 4L on Instagram. I also tag him when I do co-parenting videos. And well, thanks so much for joining us today on the first episode of I Didn't Sign Up for This podcast.